Happy Body Collective members, welcome to another In the Kitchen. Today I'm going to be making the Moroccan lentil soup that's found in the fall 2019 recipe set. So we're just going to dive in. The first thing I wanted to show you is the spice mix. So this would be a really good step to do ahead of time if you wanted to just save yourself a little bit of time during the week. Sometimes I find when it comes to healthy cooking, healthy eating, a lot of the resistance is like a mental resistance, right? We kind of tell ourselves that it's going to be harder or take more time than it actually does. So we're going to do a teaspoon of cumin and then a teaspoon of turmeric. And because there are so many spices in this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different spices, it can just feel like a lot. You know, when you read the recipe and you think like, woo, that's a lot of ingredients. But this step is very, easy. You're just measuring and dropping in. But if it helps you get over that hurdle of, oh, this is going to take a lot of time, even though it doesn't, put your spices together on the weekend or the night before while, your partner or hubby is cleaning up the kitchen. Just find a little 3-minute block of time to do it so that when you actually go to make the soup, you're just opening up one container and dumping it in. So that can feel lighter and easier for some of us, and that's kind of like the trick to get over the hurdle. So the other thing about this recipe, okay, so that's about a teaspoon left. I'm just going to pour it in. Is that because there are so many spices, it can feel kind of expensive to have to buy all of the spices for this one soup. So what I recommend is getting your spices in bulk whenever you can, because this is by far the best way to save money at the grocery store. Now, I really try to not give you recipes where it calls for all kinds of crazy spices that you're not going to use again, right? So you probably noticed that. But, it is nice to have a nice variety of flavors in your food. But it can get expensive. If you were to buy all 6 of these spices, that's $20, $25 right there. So what I recommend is finding a store that has bulk spices and getting them there. I just added cinnamon. I'm going to do coriander now. And getting them there, and then it's incredibly cheap. Like you can get bay leaves are kind of my favorite example. If you were to buy a jar of bay leaves, that would run anywhere from $3 to $5, kind of depending on where you're shopping. But you can get the same amount of bay leaves in bulk for like 60 cents. I mean, it's a huge savings, and it's especially helpful for things like turmeric that we don't use all that often, and that if you were to buy a big jar, it might kind of go stale or go bad and just sit on your shelf for several years. So just buy a little bit, and that will saves a lot of money. That's by far one of the best ways to save money, bulk spices. I can see my lighting is funny. I'm a little bit washed out. Oh well, I think it's because I have such a dark shirt on. Okay, so now, did I already put it on here? I think I did. We're gonna do the paprika, smoked paprika. I've been talking and then it's hard to keep track of what I'm doing. Okay, so all the spices are done. Very simple and easy, but now I could just put a lid on this and then it would be ready to go. The other thing you can do to kind of prep ahead is to chop your onion, celery, and carrot ahead of time and just pop that in the fridge. You can actually just put it all together in the same container and put it in the fridge, and that will keep for about 4 days. It'll look kind of dry by day 4, but it's not bad. It's fine, especially since you're putting it into a soup. It'll be fine. The other thing that you can do, let me add these and get these going. This is 1 onion. Stir that up. Okay, the other thing that you can do is, this is perfect for nights when you really don't have time, is to buy frozen chopped veggies. So you can buy frozen chopped onion or frozen chopped mirepoix. and that is onion, carrot, and celery. And then you can just use, well, it depends on the bag, but I use about 2 cups, which is often a full bag. Now, it's more expensive to do that, but it saves you a lot of time. Like, can you imagine if you were to make this recipe, you just opened the bag, poured that in, chopped your sweet potato, opened a few cans, some spices. It does make it easier. The other thing you could do for yourself is on those weekends where you find yourself with more time and you have more energy and you're just kind of feeling like it, then you can make yourself some bags of mirepoix and put them in the freezer. So that's a way to not have to spend the extra money for the convenience. It does rely on you to do it. But, you know, if you did that once a month and made up 6 bags or so, that would be, you know, like a really nice way to save yourself some time without spending more money on it. All right, so I'm just getting this chopped up. I have 2 celery stalks and 1 carrot going in. Now, my son really likes lentil soup. And he likes this soup. It's flavorful, like the spices are different, but they don't bother him, which is in some ways surprising because he is a very selective eater, I have to say. But he'll eat this soup. But if you have a kiddo that is more picky, what I would suggest, let's stir it up here, is serving them the soup, just giving them a small portion. And then I'm going to peel up this sweet potato, serving them the soup, giving them a small portion, and serving it with sides that you know for sure they're going to like and eat. I try to keep it in the theme of the dish. So this Moroccan lentil soup, I might serve like yogurt, plain yogurt, because I think of, you know, when you go out to a Middle Eastern restaurant, you might have like yogurty dips with cucumber, so I might serve some plain yogurt. He likes plain yogurt, and cucumber to go along with it, and maybe some pita bread, or I might make him a grilled cheese so that he has other food to eat, and it's not just this. That's kind of my trick for everything. It's my way to get around making 2 meals, so I don't want to do that, and I don't want you to have to do that either. If you have a picky kid and you are making the Happy Body Collective meals, kind of the way to get around making 2 meals is to really expand the sides that you're serving. So now I'm just chopping up some sweet potato. I peeled it. You don't necessarily have to. This is a nice, easy sweet potato to chop. Sometimes, I got myself, sometimes they can be so thick and hard to get through, can't they? All right. Trying to chop these kind of small. And then I'm going to get the garlic chopped, and that's it for the chopping. I try to keep the chopping to a minimum because that takes time. But if you haven't taken like a knife skills course, I say course, just a 1-day class will do ya. If you can find one to go to, that would be fantastic. I'm going to do a knife skills class for the Happy Body Collective, but it is different when you do it in person because you get to try their knives and see what kind you like, and you get some like hands-on correction, which is helpful. But working with a sharp knife and knowing what you're doing makes chopping go a lot faster. Okay, so now we've got garlic. I'm just gonna pop these. Now, I don't know if you've seen me do this, but I'll do it for you here. So you can pop garlic with your knife, right? You might have seen this where you, I'll do one of each. You put your knife down on it like this, and then you flatten it out, and then the skin comes off really quickly. And if that makes you nervous to do it with the knife, or if you have a kiddo that you want to bring into the kitchen and help, you can grab something. I'm just going to use this because it's right here, but a can works really well. And you just have them put the can on top and then smash it with the can. So that's another way to do that if you feel iffy about the knife. Okay, so I'm just going to get the garlic done. We're going to put the garlic in, get the spices in, the sweet potato, and then from there it's just opening a few things, pouring them in, and letting it cook. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and add this all in. I do need to get salt. Hang on one sec. Back here, you know me, I always forget something. Okay, and with this recipe, if you want to keep it vegetarian, then definitely use veggie broth, but you could also use chicken broth, chicken stock, whatever you have is fine. Sometimes if I don't have broth, I just use water, and then I'll typically add more salt, more pepper, and often a bay leaf if I'm just using water instead of stock. It's not quite as flavorful, but it's really not that big of a difference. So that's a little tip if you forgot your stock or you're out or whatever. Okay, so I'll get this open. I'm using 4 cups, which is 1 box of this, and then we're also going to use 1 cup of water. Now for this recipe, we are using brown lentils. Brown lentils dried. They are so cheap. You just want to make sure that you give them a good rinse before you use them, and kind of pick through and make sure there are no like little stones or twigs I found sometimes inside. Now, in all the years that I've been cooking dried beans, I have very rarely found kind of foreign objects in there, but you do always want to check through, make sure there's nothing funky in there. Okay, all right, so now let's get this in. Our sweet potato. This is such a yummy winter dish because it's like warming and filling. The spices that we're adding are really kind of unique, right? Like, it's just a little different from the chicken pot pie soup and kind of the comforting thing. So it's a little bit different. It smells good. Ginger and cinnamon are warming in the body, which is nice when it's cold out or raining out. The other thing I love about this soup is that it freezes really well, so you can make up a batch, and if it doesn't get eaten and you're kind of tired of it, just put it in some small containers, put it in the fridge, or the freezer rather, and then in a few weeks you might be kind of short for what you're going to have for lunch that day. You can pull one of those out and have a delicious lunch. So now I'm going to add 15 ounces of diced tomato. You could also use a box of tomatoes. Okay. Yes, this smells so good. And then we're going to add our broth. Turn this back up. And then we'll do our lentils, our water, and that's going to be it. You know, so many of us have this preconceived notion that healthy food takes a lot of time or that it's hard. But as you can see, there's nothing really hard about this. And this might be one of my longer videos, I don't know, because I did a lot of talking in the beginning without moving a lot. But it comes together really quickly. So now there's cook time. But in this cook time, you know, you bring it up to a bubble, and then you reduce it to simmer, put a lid on it, and then let it go for 20 to 30 minutes. You want the lentils to be nice and tender, and you want the sweet potato to be cooked.